and possibly the best hand I played all year fairly recently, Ace Jack at Bally's. Here's the pre-flop action. Among some folds, there were 2 limps. When it got to me in late position, I raised to $15 with Ace Jack offsuit, and the big blind called, the first limper called, the second limper called, and there's me. So 4 players, and I am in position going to the flop. So pre-flop is standard. It was a table where 15 I thought would get heads up. We weren't seeing a ton of like 4 or 5-way hands. I don't want to go 4 ways with Ace Jack. It's a strong hand. You could win heads up. You could always bluff your way out if you're heads up. It's good enough if it hits a pair to win heads up. It's going to be tough to hit a hand so strong that you could win like a 4-way pot. So if this were happening all day, raising to 15 meant a 4-way flop, I would size it bigger, 20-25. But up to this point, I thought 15 would get heads up, so that's why I chose that sizing. On the flop, we get 10-8-7, so I have a gut shot to a jack high straight, and I have 2 overcards. Here's the action. Big blind checks. The first limper leads out for $15, little unconventional. Second limper folds. I call the 15, and the big blind, he had checked first time around, he folds when it gets back to him. So heads up in position going to the turn. That lead seems weak, so he wasn't the pre-flop raiser, I was. He led out. It wasn't bigger sizing than we had to put in pre, so it seems weak. There is an argument for raising right now, but one of the reasons I didn't want to was because the big blind was very active and aggressive. So I didn't want to get into a sticky situation if I raised and he calls and I have very little idea what he has and I'm pretty weak. I wanted to call and see what the big blind did, and he folded and we got heads up to the turn. So now I got what I wanted, heads up against this player who was not a strong player and did not lead for a strong sizing. So I'm in position with, you know, better thoughts, better skill, and he's limped pre and he's bet pretty small on the flop. So even though he has the betting lead, it's been pretty weak so far, so I'm in a good position. On the turn, perfect card, queen, exactly what I was looking for. Probably like the best card that doesn't actually give me better than ace high yet. So here's the action. He leads again for 15. I race to 40 and he calls. So heads up in position, going to the river. Okay, a lot's going on the turn. For one, I want to raise because now we're heads up. I'm not worried about a third player in the hand waking up with something really strong. Also, I can't just bet or raise the river. So if I miss and I don't raise him on the flop, I don't raise him on the turn, and on the river he checks and I stab, it looks like I have exactly what I have. High card that missed, and I'm just trying to buy my way out. This is the only way I could win. That is not a good recipe for a bluff. I want the lead on the turn to give myself some credibility for having a real hand. So I want to raise to take the betting lead away, and the sizing, I don't want it to be too big for 2 reasons. I want the sizing to be small. I didn't even make it 3x. I wanted the sizing to be small. 1, because he wasn't very deep. I don't want to make the sizing so big here that he calls with probably 9-8, a pair, and a straight draw. And then on the river, when I go all in, he just figures I'm probably dead, but like 80% of my stack is in there already, and he calls it off and beats my high card. So I want to keep it smaller so that there's still fold equity on the river. When I bet big on the river, he has enough behind that he doesn't want to just throw it in and say, who cares? It's actually an amount of money that he wants to protect. Also, some bluffs are multi-street bluffs. Some bluffs you just want the guy to fold right now. This bluff, I want the guy to put some money in and then fold the next street. If he folds now, I don't make any more money. If he calls my raise and then folds the next street, I make an extra $25. So there's a lot of reasons to raise, and raise on the smaller side. And it was also an amazing turn card, because if he has 9-8 or 9-7, he's already scared. I have a pair of 10s and he's behind. If he has 10-9 or 10-6 or Jack-10, even though he doesn't love it, he would love to have the straight, he has top pair and he probably thinks he's ahead. So any overcard on the turn was an amazing card. It either gives me a pair or it gives me a card that I could easily rep and scare him. So the 8x and the 7x hands that he has are already scared on the flop because they're not top pair, but now the 10x hands that he has are worried that I have like queen jack or ace queen or king queen or something, that I paired the queen, and now even his flopped top pair hands are worried they're behind, and it'll be easier to get them to fold on the river. And I got that complete brick on the river of 5. So, action on the river. He checks. I bet 60. He had about $80 left. I bet 60 of it. And when it gets back to him, he check folds. I win without showdown with ace high. Can't imagine he had worse than ace high. So it would have been great if the river were a card that made my head stronger, but as long as I'm not going to improve, pretty good card to bluff, didn't change anything, couldn't possibly give him 2 pair or a straight. That 5 is an amazing card on the river, and I bet 60 of the 80, he had about 80 left. If I went all in, I don't think it's a big difference, but I think actually betting 60 of the 80 looks a little stronger than just announcing all in. That looks a little bluffier, so I don't think it would have made much of a difference either way, or that it makes a huge difference over many, many trials. But had a good plan, got a good run out, very good turn card, even though I think it would have worked anyway. And yeah, couldn't fold pre, pretty basic. Couldn't fold flop, pretty basic. The turn was the most important street, and then I followed through on the river. My mind was made up on the turn, what I was doing on most river cards. And remember, rice is a spoon food.